I never thought I'd get into kite foiling. I told myself there's way too much gear, it's too cumbersome, too hard to carry around, and it doesn't look like that much fun. But then I got skunked in 3 world-class kite spots: Dakhla, Outer Banks, Grenadines. I learned to ride a surfboard in order to get through those light wind days, but it wasn't enough. I spent time sitting on the beach, and ultimately I took foil lessons. First thing is there's just no other feeling like it. It's both freeing, it's somewhat terrifying, it's oddly calming because it's so quiet. It really is a magical feeling. Next, you get a lot more days on the water, especially those really sunny, calm, light wind days that are so enjoyable. I'm not a great kiter and I can foil in 10 to 12 miles an hour, so I end up out there a lot more frequently. And last, all this extra time on the water and all this subtle kite control, it just makes you a better overall kiter. A little background on my path to foiling. I started after 5 years of kiting. I was getting 20 to 30 sessions a year, mostly twin tipping, but some surfing. I knew how to switch stances and how to tack. Here's a more detailed timeline of the steps it took me. It took me just under 2 years to get from knowing nothing about foiling to carving from heel side to toe side and back, being confident going upwind and downwind in a variety of spots and in a variety of conditions. Now for some tips before you get on the water. Your first time foiling will be super awkward. It'll feel like you forgot how to fly a kite and you're resetting and starting from zero. That's why I recommend e-foiling or wake foiling behind a boat or a jet ski. It's nice to figure out the foil separate from the kite. Next, the foil wing really matters. A small race foil is completely different than a big surf foil, and I think it'll shave a bunch of time off your learning process. I'm currently riding a Ride Engine Manta 76, which is the same as the Infinity 76 from Slingshot. It comes up super smooth, has a lot more side-to-side stability, and frankly would have had me out carving much sooner. So now for some skills I think you can practice on a twin tip or on a surfboard. Get out there and do some light wind flying. Down loops in particular, keeping your kite moving, keeping your kite from falling out of the sky. Then make sure you're comfortable with self-rescuing in more emergency situations. If you're flying in light wind, your kite's gonna fall out of the sky and you're gonna end up having to do some long swims. Make sure you have a helmet and an impact vest. Next, riding upwind and downwind are completely inverse from being on a twin tip. Riding upwind on a foil is super easy. Riding downwind is tough because the foil often will catch up to the kite. Your lines will lose tension and your kite will fall out of the sky. Last, I think it's useful to know how to ride strapless. Controlling your foil is about forward and backward movement on the board, which then raises and lowers your foil out of the water. Without straps, you just have more control over the process because you can stand anywhere on the board. Now let's get into the riding tips. First, if you lean back and edge like you do on a twin tip, it actually causes more problems for water starts and early riding, and it slowed me down. Getting up on a foil is much more vertical. You just want to roll up, stay on top of it, keep your kite straight above you, and stand tall. Once you're up, don't jump to just getting up on the foil. Ride the board on the water, get comfortable with a foot switch, get comfortable with a carving turn. This will be a foundational skill you can build on later. Next, let's talk about getting up on foil. My buddy Mark had the simplest explanation of this as possible. There are really 3 ways: sheeting in, turning upwind, or putting pressure on the back of the board. Each one of these in its own way will get your foil to rise up out of the water, and you want to find the one that works for you with the most control. Now that you're up and riding on foil, the hard part is slowing down. There's no friction, so it's very hard to lose speed. Just push out the bar, get the kite at 12 above you, and then put your board back on the water so that you can use the friction of the board to slow you down. The other option is turning downwind to let go of some speed, or turning upwind, which is a bit trickier because you'll gain speed first, but then eventually if you push against the kite, you'll be able to slow things down. This one's more advanced. Last tip is from learning to carve from toe side to heel side. This gave me a ton of trouble. Start with kite movement. You're gonna move your kite up first, and you're gonna move it slower and with the bar out as far as you can. Subtle kite movement is the key to not being pulled off your foil. Next, you're gonna follow the kite with your board, but you're gonna put a lot more front pressure than you think you would need. And last, it helps to think about this as a pivot rather than a leaning, angled carving turn. A foil can really pivot in place, and it'll be easier your first couple times to approach them a little bit more vertical. So there you have it. That's why you should consider foiling. Those are my best tips on how to get you out there sooner. If you liked it, give me a thumbs up. And if you've got any questions, put them in the comments down below.